I've met so many authors that have written a book and they had really powerful stories, powerful insights to share, but they didn't tell anybody. They thought because it's a great book, people will discover it. And that is not the case. I don't think it's ever been the case for authors. You have to tell people.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Go in there. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Hey.
Welcome in. We are back for another episode of Adventures in Business Live. How are we feeling, Mandy? We missed you last week. We hope you're feeling better.
Amani, I'm giving jazz hands because I wanted people to think I didn't have a voice still, but I do. I'm back. I'm here.
Yes, you're back.
Um, yes, thank you for pinch hitting last week. I think that's the first show. I mean, I've missed you and I have missed because of our travel schedules, but I think that's the first time I
Yes,
called in sick in 3
yeah,
years, and it felt
yes. Okay.
it actually, I will say this, tuning in as a guest and watching on LinkedIn and popping questions in the chat was actually pretty cool. I hadn't done that for our show yet. So I got to be a guest and or not a guest, a a watcher, observer. So that was kind of neat. And Dr. Will was he was a great guest. So great job.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, of course. Well, we missed you, but we're happy you're back today. What kind of travel do you have planned? Because I know it's busy time for speaking and everything. So what you
Yeah.
got on the calendar?
Well, I actually have a gal pal trip planned this week, Amani.
Okay.
I have one of my best girlfriends here in San Diego is leaving a job. Today's actually her last day after being there for 22 years. And she's going to eventually work somewhere else, but she's taking a nice, healthy hiatus. I would almost say sabbatical. And so we're calling it her the Kitty Freedom Tour. Her name is not Kitty, that's just a nickname. So we're going to Santa Fe this weekend. I've never been to Santa Fe, New Mexico. We're just going to gal pal around and look at some art
That's
and
right.
hike and go to the spa and have some great food and wine and go to a concert, and yeah, it's going to be fun this weekend.
All right. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, good. Let
Yeah.
us know how New Mexico is. I'm curious.
I will. Well, you know me. I'll post all the weird things I find on Instagram. And oh, well, you appreciate this. We
Yeah.
found there's a haiku garden. I
Oh,
love a haiku. So we
okay.
found there's a haiku garden. It's at like the Santa Fe Community College or something. And so that's going to be our first step is to go to the haiku garden. Just like walk around. There's like 22 poets and there's little haikus on plaques or something. So
Okay.
that'll be our first step there. Very excited, but I will be sharing and
All right.
caring along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Please
All right.
do. Please do.
Enough about me. You've had a way more. All I've done is sit in bed and just binge watch weird things on Hulu and sleep and take medicine for 2 weeks. You've had a way more interesting 2 weeks than me.
I
So,
have.
can you please update us all on the last list that you were on?
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like we should drum roll it because this was a goal of yours.
Yes,
Tell
yes.
everybody the list that you hit,
Okay.
Amani.
So, the book came out on February 18th, and then it was funny so I made, I think it was 5 categories on Amazon, like 4 was number 1, and there was 1 that was number 2, and then
Awesome.
last Wednesday, I get a text message from a friend of mine who also had a book come out, and she was like, "Oh, we did it," and I was confused because I didn't know when you get hear back from the list or whatever, and so it was like the little picture of for the USA Today's bestsellers list coming in at number 50 for our debut week, which was really really cool. So yes,
Woohoo!
yeah,
Amani, have
yes,
you soaked that in? Like, can you just
I
take a minute to soak in?
every day I soak it in. Yes,
You are a USA Today top
yeah,
50 bestseller. That's a huge deal. I'm so
yeah.
happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you for the support and all the help with promoting and spreading the word because it was not done alone for sure.
Yeah. Okay, how did you celebrate that? I'm hoping there was a stack of
Uh,
pancakes or something. I know you like your sweet
Yes.
treats.
Yes, there was a stack of pancakes on Saturday. Yes, I went to get ice cream last night, and then during the week this week, I'll go get some sushi too. So I'll do a
Ooh,
3 for 3. Yeah.
all
Yeah,
right.
that's how I celebrate.
What's your sushi roll? What's your sushi? What's your order at your sushi place normally?
I like well, here we have really good all you can eat shrimp, all you can eat sushi.
Oh.
So I can get all the rolls I want to get. So it's really, really good. So usually I like California shrimp tempura. Um, those are my top two favorites. And then depending, there's like a popcorn shrimp roll that I like. So it just
Oh.
depends. Yeah.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
lot. That's a lot of different roles I've never thought about before. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to
It's
add.
good. So that's actually a really good segue to our guest today.
Yeah.
So I have to tell a story, and I'm going to bring Julie to the screen while I'm telling the story.
Okay.
But what happened is that it was 2018, and I was at Podcast Movement Conference in Philadelphia. So at Podcast Movement in Philadelphia, and I was there. First time I had my other podcast in, I was going around, and I saw a session about writing a book. I was like, oh, maybe that would be the next step for me in the process. And then I go around and actually I met Julie at the book launchers table, and we were talking, and then we left, and I came back to LA. And then we'll bring Julie to the screen now.
Okay.
And so there's Julie. She's on the screen now. And so what happened is that um, initially, I don't think Julie knows this. I had signed up with another publishing company, but I really quickly discovered that they weren't going to meet my needs. They weren't going to be very good. So I had to get out of that contract, and then I signed up with Julie. And I remember that it was Julie, and then our friend Deb, were at this restaurant in Santa Monica talking. And so that's how I met her. And I've been working with Julie's team since 2018. My first book we worked on, then we worked on my second book. So it's perfect timing to welcome Julie Broad to the Adventures in Business podcast. So we're going to give you a round of applause and say
Ah.
welcome here.
Hi, Julie. It's nice to meet you.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, yes.
I'm
So
excited to be here. It's been an exciting week for you. I'm very excited.
oh, yes, it's been a very exciting week. So I don't know where we should start, but I have so many questions, especially after what I just experienced. But I know that one of your mottos and mantras is that books change lives. Can you share
Mm.
your philosophy on why books change lives?
Yeah, I mean it's a deep one because I think they change the life of certain readers and then they change the life of the person who wrote the book. And it goes back for me back in 2001 when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was fresh out of college and working in my kind of first grown up job. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I realized, God, this is going to be a long life of working for somebody else. And I started investing in real estate like almost immediately. And those like simple actions completely changed my entire life, not in an
Mm.
instant, but by 2008 I quit my job full time, quit my job and then went full time real estate. Yes, that was terrible timing for going
Yeah.
full time as a real estate investor.
I mean,
But
there's a
without
lot of
that,
real estate to sell at that time. What?
Mhm.
it was a terrible time
Cheap.
to own real
It's
estate, but
cheap.
I
Yeah.
bought, in 2009, 2010, we bought a ton and got really good deals on it then. So timing, but without that book, I don't know had I would have whether I would have taken those steps or when I would have taken those steps. But then
Mm.
the other side of it is when I finally did write my own book, my life also changed. Again, not in an instant, it wasn't write book, life change, but I'm doing what I'm doing today because I wrote a book on real estate investing. So here I am running a company that helps other people write, publish, and sell nonfiction books coming from a real estate background. But if I hadn't have written that first book and had the whole experience that I had around that, I wouldn't be doing what I am today, which is way better than all the things I did in real estate.
Yeah, yeah. My follow-up question would be, I think you know this stat, like 81% of people, and like domestically, have a book inside of them. 4% start the book, and then 4% of that 4% finish the book. Why do you think it's so hard for people to finish a book?
I mean, how many people start a diet and don't finish it?
I mean,
It's
yes.
Mhm.
humans.
Mhm.
It's the human nature. I think some of it is that, the book, they don't have a compelling vision as to why, but I think that's again going to human nature. We all have to have a compelling vision. And a lot of times people think that vision is being a bestseller, but I think, as you're experiencing being a bestseller, it's great. It feels good, but your life doesn't change because of that single thing. And
Right.
as much as it's a moment to celebrate, it's not the thing that's going to matter in the end. The thing that matters is the impact and the opportunities and how you show up and what happens after that. And I think that when you have that, for lack of a better phrase, hollow goal of being a bestseller, you're going to lose momentum and lose your way, because as you know, having gone through this twice now, a book is a roller coaster. And if you don't have something to hold on to that keeps you going when you're going down, then you're not going to finish it. And that's what I think the compelling vision of not just being a bestseller, but who are you impacting and how are you going to impact them? How's their life better because of the work that you're doing? Now that's something that's going to get you out of bed and keep you going when you're stuck.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Over to you, Mandy. God, I have more, but we have to take turns.
I know we have so many questions, Sarah. I want to go to one of the books that you wrote. I want to talk about self promotion because I think it's so hard for people to promote themselves, right? I think it's so hard for people think they're bragging or they're not being humble. Like, who cares if you're humble anymore? But I mean, I think self promotion is something hard for people to digest. And I love this quote: "Nobody is going to tell your story better than you. So why are you so afraid to tell it?" So I want to ask you about your book, Self Promote and Succeed, which it feels like it hangs its hat on that concept. So why is self promotion so important?
I've met so many authors that have written a book and they had really powerful stories, powerful insights to share, but they didn't tell anybody. They thought because it's a great book, people will discover it. And that is not the case. I don't think it's ever been the case for authors. There's been certainly avenues where maybe because you were early, you maybe were discovered, like blogging. There was some advantages to being early in that. But with authors and books, it's never been the case. You have to tell people. So, I think it's one thing. It's not even about being humble. It's about being driven to share the message that you put all this time, effort, energy, resources into creating. Now you have to talk about it. And, the other side of this too is a lot of people say, well, I've already talked about it. And they've talked about it once or twice. And nobody A remembers that you talked about it, and B, it's all new people most of the time, or plenty of new people. So you have to keep talking about it because nobody else is going to do that for you.
Ah, I totally agree. And I think everybody's modality of learning is different too, right? So maybe an author might have thought, well, I talked about it, but maybe they talked about it in their book, but they didn't talk about it on a podcast or on LinkedIn or oh, time to squat. They didn't talk about it in all these other. I'll do that in a second. So I think that modality of learning too is there's so many ways people are consuming someone's book that maybe if you talked about it in one area, you're missing talking about it in the other area. So I want to hang here for a second on marketing. I know one of the illuminating things for me when I wrote a book, I never thought about marketing. I thought I'd write a book, I'd get a publisher, and then my mom would read the book. Like it didn't occur to me until my publisher and I were working on the cover, the whole marketing strategy. I was like, "Oh, geez, how do people hear about it? How do you talk about it endlessly?" So, what are those ways right now that you're finding most effective in the marketing of a book? And what do you think authors are missing the boat on when they're not really considering their marketing strategy?
Yeah. So I'll start with the reverse of what they're missing. I think one is that they really do think Amazon's going to sell their book for them. And so
Mm,
they're missing all the things. And Amazon does. Like Amazon is an algorithm. And once you show Amazon who's going to convert, Amazon does help you sell your book. But you have to help Amazon in the first place by selling it, your book, to the right people, getting good reviews from the right people, and making sure that your metadata, your keywords, your book description, like everything is on point so that Amazon can help show your book to people who will buy your book. And so I think that's one thing, is people just aren't really strategically thinking about Amazon. They think
Mhm.
Amazon's going to sell my book. And a number of people are like, well, I published with Amazon and nothing's happening. Like, why aren't they selling my book?
You're like,
So
"Let me tell you sort of 75 ways why not."
Exactly. So that's what's not working, right? That is not going to work for you. What's working is very different for every author. The one thing that will consistently work is if you have built an audience that is ready to buy your book, excited for your message, they are going to be a great avenue for you to get your book sales started. So that works consistently. And that audience can be all over. It can be YouTube, podcasts, email newsletter. I always love the email newsletter over all of them. It gets opened more. People pay closer attention to the newsletter in general than the other platforms. But any and all platform is going to make a huge difference for every single author. So even if you only have 20 people on your email newsletter, celebrate it, because those are 20 people who have expressed interest in hearing what you have to say. So that's one of the big things. And then other than that, I think it's going in. There's literally hundreds of things you can do. But I think the best and most effective way is to get yourself in front of other people's audiences who are a really great fit for whatever it is whatever it is you're talking about. So finding influencers or finding events or podcasts or live streams. The mass media is fun, but we can ask Amani how many books he thinks he sold after he went on TV. It felt great. But I've done tons of TV myself, so I know from firsthand experience, TV doesn't sell books.
They
It's
don't.
very
Yeah, they
sad.
don't.
Mhm.
They don't.
But a
Yeah.
niche audience can sell a ton of books. Speaking engagement can sell a ton of books. So getting yourself in front of other people's audiences that are a perfect fit, even if it's 100 people in the room, now 80 of them might buy your book because it was a perfect fit for them. So
Mhm.
I think that's one of the best marketing strategies every author can employ.
Awesome. Love it. I have a zillion other questions, but I'm gonna pause. Amani, over to you. And I'm
Yes.
gonna go off camera and do my squats. Audience, I'm still doing the squat, the monthly squat, the
Yeah.
monthly squat challenge.
Yes. Um, Now, okay, so for me, like the book is out, it's been out now for 2 weeks. When you're talking to authors, like what are some of the crucial next steps you can take to maintain momentum? Because I've got a lot of momentum right now. Maintain momentum to continue like a hockey puck growth, in your opinion.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you really want to keep doing what you've been doing these last 2 weeks for the next year? So, I mean,
No.
I think yeah. And so that's the reality, right? There's an unsustainable element of what you've been doing. So, realistically, are you going to keep going like that? Probably not. But then this is where I do look for those high points of leverage. Like you've had a phenomenal couple of weeks. What's worked? Go back and
Mhm.
do more of what's been working, and the things that didn't work as well, again, I'm going to pick on TV because I know,
Mhm.
we've had
Yeah.
so many authors do TV over the years, and there's only one or two cases where TV really moved the needle for them. Generally speaking, it's the fun social media clips, but it's not the book sale. So looking at that, maybe there's other reasons for you to pursue TV, but as far as book sales, that might be the one thing you go, okay, that was fun. Let's drop that. Let's focus on the other things. For leverage, though, you've got momentum. Now's a great time to start reaching out to corporations and speaking gigs, right? Like now
Mhm.
this, and then that's where you get the bulk. That's where you get the bulk sales. You get in front of those larger audiences, and those doors they start opening a lot faster, and they become bigger and bigger doors. So that's where I personally would lean, being in your shoes. And continuing to kind of look back at what was the most fun too. Like what else can, and that's why I say like I'm picking on TV, but TV's a blast. Like being in
Mhm.
studio doing live TV, it's a
Yeah.
rush. It is so fun. And so maybe you're going, hey, I just loved doing that. I want to do more. So that, it's like what worked to sell books, and then where did you have the most fun, and just do more of that stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, actually, the live radio interview was the funnest because it was longer and we could get into more detail. So that was fun.
Mhm.
And then where I saw most success was in addition like the bulk. Bulk is what carried me. That's what did it the most was bulk and book in lieu of fee. That's what carried me
Yep.
completely to the finish line. But I did a lot of work because I would reach out to people individually through DMs, private messages on LinkedIn, and text messages and just say, "What's up? How are you doing? By the way, my second book's coming out. Don't forget to grab your copy." I must have sent a good, we'll say 750, maybe even 1,000 DMs to people over
Yep.
2 weeks. That's not sustainable, but I did that. That's what kind of carried me to the finish line. But I would
Yeah.
say like you speak about speaking. So Wednesday, I'm going to go speak at MPI Northern California. Next week, I'm speaking at a conference. Like that's what I'm doing. So I'm trying to follow that format.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's what worked for me. I'm curious because we'll kind of go back and forth. How have you seen self-publishing evolve and like the hybrid model evolve in like the last 5 to 6 years? Because when I met you in 2018, it was very different than it is now. So I'm curious to see
Yeah.
what changes and how has it evolved throughout the years.
Yeah, I mean, when I launched the company in 2017, there was only a couple of companies that did what we do, and really, there was only one company that did it at the quality level that we do it. Right, we're pursuing traditionally published book quality or better, and today it's such a fragmented kind of business. There are hundreds and hundreds of companies doing varying degrees of quality and varying degrees of levels of service to what we do. We're full self-publishing, so the hybrid is a little bit different in that the hybrid you actually kind of get tangled up with a publisher.
Uh-huh.
Your book is you don't have as much access to the things that you would have when you fully self-publish. Your book is now under their title, so they probably have the dashboards and you don't have the dashboards, so you don't know how many books you sold. So whereas you could go online and check the next day, for better or for worse, you knew how many
Yeah.
copies you
Yeah.
sold.
I didn't check it
A
all.
lot
I
of
didn't check one time. One time. I
Mm,
haven't checked yet, but go ahead. Keep
that's
going.
some good
yeah,
restraint.
that is good. Like I know so many authors who are clicking their Amazon refresh page, like, did my ranking go up? And
No,
and they're
Mhm.
going in their
no.
dashboard, how many books did I sell? So that you stayed sane. That's good. But yeah, so there's trade-offs. I mean, for us, what I'm all about is full control, full ownership, like the author being control of their destiny for better or for hopefully for much better, but for better or for worse. But there's so many people that are playing in all of these shades of this world of traditional all the way through to fully self-published. It's complicated for somebody to figure out what to do, who to go with, who to trust, because there's a
Uh-huh.
lot of companies that honestly should not be trusted. But then
Mhm.
there's
Yes.
a lot of really good quality companies. So how do you navigate it? It's a very interesting world, and it is from a company perspective. It's challenging to help people see the right choice, because we're not the right choice for every author. But how do we help them avoid those people that shouldn't be trusted while also helping them find the right choice for their goals and for their needs and resources? It's challenging. It's been an interesting
Yeah.
ride these last 8 years.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
I've seen it. Go ahead, man.
I want to hang here because so Monty, bear with me. I've got three questions here. So, but Julie, you bring up a really good point about who to trust or who not to trust. So when I first started my whole book journey many years ago, it was 20 my book came out in 2021, but I picked my publisher in 2020. So 2019 I was done with the book, but I started the process, let's say 2017, 2018. And asked all my friends that actually I was lucky to have 3 or 4 friends that published a book, and, like, one went through a literary agent, one self-published, and one, went through a hybrid, semi-traditional book publishing situation. And all of them had different experiences. Like one of them had shared they went through a traditional publisher and they accepted the advance that the and I think this is what most people think. Like I think most people think it's like a publisher's going to pick you, they're going to give you an advance, you're going to sell a book and be a bestseller, right? It's this weird myth that rarely happens unless you're like Howard Stern or unless you're like a
Mel
top person.
Robbins.
Yeah,
Mel
Mel
Robbins.
Robbins or whatever.
Yeah.
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 But like I had one friend who went through the process of traditional publishing, got the advance, then didn't sell as many books as she thought, then had to pay the advance back in royalties, then had books in her garage that were collecting dust. And so everybody had this whole different experience. So I know at the beginning, I was personally very confused. So I solicited literary agents and publishers at the same time because I didn't really know what to do. Luckily, I ended up with a boutique publisher who I love, and it ended up working for me. But I interviewed some publishers. They interviewed, you know how it goes, like you're mutually interviewing each other. But had I not had three friends that two had bad experiences, one had a great one, I don't know where I would have started. So if you're
Yeah.
let's just say you've got your idea, you've got a manuscript at least, where do people start? And I know that the publishing industry can be very antiquated, right? And how it all goes down. So like where could people start if they've got a manuscript, they've got a book, and you keeping your mind open to you do this in one way, but like what's a way people can evaluate how they start this process?
Yeah, I mean, they have to think about their goals first. And
Yeah.
I think the one thing I don't, and it is my own bias, but I don't recommend most people pursue a traditional publisher because they do lose control. And a
Mhm.
lot of people are thinking about the fact that they want to be chosen and they want somebody else to pay for this and they want to be paid for this. And they lose sight of the fact that control, and this is your intellectual property, and somebody else now controls this when you get a publishing deal. And in exchange for them now controlling that, you get a royalty, which is not very big per book sold. So, it's the trade-off that you get. And the one story that I hang on to and that really made me, hold tight to self-publishing was my friend wrote a book in the real estate space in Canada. And he eventually, like 2 years after the book came out, he left the real estate world and kind of created this whole personal development business. Wiley, and I wasn't going to throw them under the bus, but there they go. They're under the bus. They republished his book word for word under a new author's name. And he had two co authors that weren't contracted for this, but they had contributed to the book and they didn't give them any credit for this. And they were still in the real estate business, but the contract was with my friend. And they are 100% legally okay to do this. It's morally gross, but legally it's their book. And they have the
Mm.
complete right to do whatever the heck they want with it. And that story was the one that kind of just hit me. And I just went, oh my gosh, like authors do not realize what they're giving up. And so some deals make sense, right? Some deals, if you're getting a six-figure advance and they're going to put you and if they're giving you a six-figure advance, they're going to be doing this. They're going to be putting you in front of some big media, some big
You're
places.
in the machine. Yeah, you're in their marketing
Exactly.
machine. Yeah.
You're it's quite likely going to be worth your while to accept that and give up the rights to this book. But in any other scenario, I always question, like, what do you really want to have happen from this? And do you think that $10,000 advance, which by the way is pretty juicy these days, like they're not handing out big advances, because they're getting burned. Even they're looking at the million followers on IG, and they're going, that didn't we didn't sell as many books as we thought from that person, with all those followers. So the advances are going down, and so that's where I kind of go. What's most important to you out of this? Like, what is your bigger picture goal? Not bestseller. What is the after the bestseller? What's success with this project look like for you? When you start to drill that down, you can start to identify, does it make sense to invest in a top quality company to help you get there? Does it make more sense for you to pursue that publisher and know that this is probably a 2 to 4 year runway that you're on before your book comes out? And so that's where I think everybody should start, is kind of understanding what's important and what are your resources. And by resources, I don't just mean money. I mean, what's your time, your energy, what kind of a platform are you bringing to the table right now? All of those things are going to factor into what's going to make sense for you in this path.
I love that thoughtful decision-making process because I think going into it, people don't even have that, right? Because it's such a foreign space for most people to be in. But I wanna hang here when you talked about what is your goal? Because I think when a lot of people wanna write a book, they're like, "Oh, I've had so many cool life experiences. I'm gonna write a book about it." And then saying you wrote a book sounds sexy, right? But, like, then what? Like, I think a lot of people don't think about what is that goal. So, I had somebody ask me really early on, like, what message do you want to convey and what do you want people to do with that message? Like, how will writing a sales book change other people's lives? Or how will that grow your business or what? But had I not had somebody ask me those questions, I probably would still be in the isn't it sexy to have written a book? So, like, how do you guide people through those decisions early on when you're having those conversations?
Yeah. I mean, some people do, I call it a legacy book, but some people do write their book for the purpose of having their story or somebody in their family's story told. And
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that. Knowing that, now you know that you don't necessarily need to invest in the top level service, right? Because it's a legacy book that you really are trying to leave behind for your family. And so I think there's a couple pieces that we focus on, but number one is that goal. Like, what is that success? What does that look like for you? Once you know, okay, well, I'm really trying to grow my business, or I want to be on these kind of stages, or I really just want to have an impact and these are the people I care about. So now we have that. Now we go back and we go, okay, so who is the single most important person, because everybody wants to help a lot more than just one person, but who is the single most important person that you want to help with this story or with this message or that you want to impact, right? It's not always about helping necessarily. Sometimes it's entertaining, which is fine as well, but it's really who is that person that you're writing the book for? And then why are they going to care about it? Because especially when it comes to stories, I mean, I love a good story. I wouldn't be in this business if I didn't. But the reality is that you're competing. When you write a book about your story, you're now competing with the famous people who have also written a book about their
Mhm.
story. So
Mm,
why is somebody reading your story and not somebody else's? And that is such a, in some ways disheartening, but such an important question to ask yourself. If your goal is impact, you have to have a reason why a particular person is going to read your book. Like, why are they going to care about this message? So that's kind of how we drill it down, is the goal, the reader, and then we call it the hook, but it's really the outcome of the outcome, because it's, your story might be inspirational, but that's not enough. It's got to be inspirational to a particular person for a particular purpose.
got it. Okay, and
Yeah.
Amani, I promise. I said three. This is the last one. I promise. I'll be fast.
All love. All love.
You get to spend time with Julie. I don't. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
But Julie, maybe we'll probably talk again after this.
Yeah.
This is great. But okay, so let's just say I'm that person who's never wrote a book, but I always thought I had a book in me. Where do I start? Like
Good question.
what do I do next?
Yeah, I mean, it's, these days there's, your options are endless. So my question first of all would be figuring out the answers to those questions, right? That's number one. Number two is kind of look at how you want to write. Are you the kind of person who is going to want to coach, like get that one-on-one support and feedback? Are you the kind of person who needs a group? Like, do you need a, kind of that group accountability? Do you need a course? Do you need step-by-step guidance? Do you need, like, kind of, I would look at yourself, and if you've never done it before, how do you go about doing things you've never done before? Like, what's your natural kind of approach? For me, it's like, okay, who can do this? I'm going to go hire them to teach me how to do it, right? Like, I like to, that's kind of how I just beeline it to the finish line. I'm a little bit of a who, not how. Like, just
Mhm, mhm.
somebody else show me how you've done it. I'm going to shortcut my way to success by learning from you. Well, actually, first I read a book, or maybe three or four books about it, and then I go do that.
Good.
That's kind of how my approach is. So I think that that's because there's all these choices out there, in the world, and even our company. I've got the YouTube channel, so you've got tons of information and content. I've got a book that you could go and read. We've got a free community that you can join. We've got coaches, right? And then we've got writers. Somebody else can write it for you. So even within my own company, there's lots of ways to do it. So I think that's why you kind of have to know yourself and know the help that you're looking for, because it's there. And so that's why I would say start with figuring out how you normally learn things, because that will be an approach for you for the book.
That's good. I hadn't thought about like discover your learning modality, what that is, and then dive in. Is it a group? Is it one-on-one? That's a really good starting point because I fumbled through that at the beginning and figured out what I wanted, but I it's good to advise people to do that. That's great. Love that.
So I want to ask you about your team, and I want to tell a couple stories because, um, I know a lot of people in the book space or whatever, but your team particularly, like I love them. They impressed me so much, and I have to give a shout out to Sarah first, Sarah Bean, and I want to explain why because I'd come back from this brand builders group thing, and I was kind of going a little bit left with the book in terms of adding in creativity. And Sarah's like, Amani, let's get on the call and let's talk about this. So we get on the call and we talk about it. And she was like, I understand how you want to add the creativity part into the book, but really, that's a third book. Like that could be your third book. There's so much there. So you can do that. And so that was probably one of the biggest turning points for this launch because it got me back on track. And I've known Sarah like for 6 years with your team. So, and then I also want to share like with Ina, the editor, both times I've worked with editors from your team, they've been tremendous. And so I'm just really curious as to how do you find your team? How do you keep them together? Because they are like a really big asset. And I'm forever grateful. Even the third part would be even the team that made the cover, which people love. Like people say, right? They love the cover. So like, how are you able to like find the team? And there you go. Yes, there it is.
Thank
Mandy
you.
Great
showing the cover of the
cover.
book.
It's a
Like
great
people
cover.
love the cover. Like, how are you able to find a team, keep them, and just continue to, because like both editors, then you have like the book coach, John, and just everyone. So talk to about that. Talk to us about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, you just mentioned my favorite people. So, I mean, my whole team is they're such beautiful humans. But it's a great question. So we have a lot of contractors. We have like 60 some contractors on our team. And what happened? So I'll tell the story of Cassie because she's our lead cover designer, exceptionally talented. And what happened? And I think she's been with us 5 years now and counting. But I kept seeing the covers come in, and I go, "Who did that one?" Well, that was Cassie. And I'm like, "Oh, wow, beautiful. Okay." And consistently, it was Cassie. And I think it was 10 covers in after me going, "This cover's not good enough. This cover's not good enough." Like all the ones Cassie didn't do. And I just said, "You know what? Like, I can't lose her." So I hired her
Mm,
in house. With
mhm,
Ina, it was fact checking. It was like, "Who did this fact check? It's extraordinary." Ina. Who did this? Who did this? It was Ina. It was Ina. So same thing. It was like, we got to bring Ina in house. So it's our contractors that are consistently exceptional. We bring them in house. And then, because you have exceptional people, other exceptional people want to work with them. And so
Mm,
it creates this culture of everybody is working together to create something great. They're also all book lovers. Like one of the very first culture fit and one of the very first questions in our culture fit interview is, why do you want to support and serve authors? And if they
mm,
don't have a good answer, they're not even joining the team, because it doesn't matter how good their skills are if they're not passionate about authors, which means most of our team they're authors themselves. But if they're not authors, they have to have a really good answer for why they're excited to work with authors every single day. So,
mm.
but thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to shout
mhm.
them out and praise them. They're phenomenal. And Sarah's a funny story too. So Sarah, one of the people on my team who we still work with, Jacqueline, she's not in the company. She started her own
Oh yeah,
business, and we were her first
yeah.
client.
Mhm.
Oh,
But
that's cool.
yeah, so she was there with me from day one, Jacqueline. So it's great. She's still there for me, cleaning up my messes.
Yes,
um,
yes.
but she introduced me to Sarah when I was in LA, not because she thought we would work together. She was just like, "Oh, Sarah's in LA. She's cool. You might like her." And within 10 minutes of talking to Sarah, I was like, "Hey, you looking for a job? Like, I think you'd be good."
Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah. Like Sarah, I'm just telling you that moment. I'll never forget that conversation. She's like, just for her to feel comfortable enough with me, because it's hard to not tell people, but advise authors on kind of how the book goes, because it's we're sensitive about our stuff. And so just for her to be comfortable enough to be like, I think you might want to do that. And I listened, to my credit. I listened. That was changing. And then yes, that cover, I mean, people
So good.
talk about it every time. Like,
Well, I want to say I want to give hats off to Sarah too, because Amani, I remember when you came back from that brand
yeah.
builders, and you called me. I will never forget this. I was in my backyard. It was sunny out. And I was on the phone, and you took that veer from
Yeah.
what I thought was your book to this other thing, and I was like, I don't know how this all goes together, but maybe ask your. I don't I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then I remember you talked to other people and then you stayed focused
Yeah.
on it. So
Yeah.
yeah, Sarah, way to go. I was
Yeah.
just as afraid as you were. This is good. It's
Yeah.
good.
Um, let's talk about like your YouTube channel, which is extremely successful and has like a ton of amazing content. How are you able to be consistent with the content? How are you able to come up with new ideas? And how have you been able to grow that? And how has that YouTube channel help your business grow?
Can I have a cheat sheet for all those questions? Is this how is
Yes.
this how you sneak it
Yes.
in on Mandy? You're like, I'm gonna make it sound like one question, but I'm gonna put five
That's
in
right.
one, so that only
Yeah.
counts as
Yes.
one, Mandy.
Yes.
I counted. I counted. That was
Well,
three
just
steps.
talk
Yeah.
about the
I
YouTube
counted.
channel and how it's helped you and why it's so good. Yes, that's it.
See, I'm
You
transparent about my questions, Julie. See how this goes.
I see how he did it. See,
Yeah,
Right?
I don't mean to pick on you, Amani, but
I love it.
anyways,
Pick on me all
yeah.
day, every day.
So the YouTube channel, so the first part is the content, and and I have always pulled my content from three sources. One is, what are the questions I'm getting asked from clients and other, on the calls that I'm on talking to authors, what are those questions? And I create those pieces of content. So we've got those to refer to. That's one. The other one is I feed the YouTube algorithm beast, and now they've made it even easier. Like I used to have to do all this research, and I have TubeBuddy, and I have Morning
Yeah.
Fame, and
Yeah.
like just information out the yinging. Now they have this insights button, and you click on it, and it says this is the video topics that we think will perform really well on your channel. And so
Nice.
in the last 3 months, I'm going to that and I'm producing 2 or 3 of those videos. And what do you know if those suckers aren't doing really well? So YouTube is telling me exactly what they're going to
Mhm.
promote in their algorithm right there. So so that's what I've been doing there. And then there's always an element of, kind of selfish intent, for lack of a better word. When I have a book coming out on book marketing, I'm producing content sometimes for feedback, sometimes because I've just written that chapter and I want to, oh, I've got this, let's just turn it into a video. And sometimes it's just testing the reception and the comments and the questions that you get from the content. So that's how I bucket the content. And then I batch prep and shoot everything. So I'll
Yeah.
spend a couple of days prepping all the videos, and then I spend usually 4 or 5 hours shooting them. And then I have an editorial team now that they know what I want, and I just funnel off the raw content with the notes for each of the videos to them. And then they give me the videos from there.
Yeah. Great channel. Shout out to Keandra Jackson in the chat, former guest. Good to see you.
And author and
And
speaker.
author, yes, and speaker.
And famous therapist. We love
Yeah.
Keandra. We love you,
Yeah.
Keandra. Thanks for
Yes,
being
yes.
here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All the things.
All the
So
things.
now, Julie, I'm a little nervous, but now's the time when we flip the script and we allow you to ask each of us a question. Any question you want, nothing is offline or out of line. Who do you want to ask the question to first, and what question is that?
Well, we'll start with Mandy. So I know you've written a book on sales. What's your next book?
Great question, Julie. I'm glad you asked. No, my next book. I am working on another book. It's probably going to come out next year at some point. It's about business bedside manner. And business bedside manner is your approach to business. How do you want to show up? Who do you want to be? It outlines the 4 key components of a good business bedside manner. It shares 5 questions to ask to develop a better business bedside manner and 6 tech hacks to use to elevate your best business bedside manner. And it actually, by the end of the book, and it's a micro book, by the way, by the end of the book, the person will have developed their own business bedside manner, or at least have some sort of action plan that they can figure out how to show up better. So it's something, business bedside manner, I'm very, very passionate about. I've trademarked it, registered trademark, not just TM trademark. Like I'm so passionate about business bedside manner. I developed that theory while I was on a bike ranting about a bad customer like back in 2020. Like it's guttural for me, but it's just taken me a while. It's what my keynote's about, but it's taken me a while to write the actual book about it. So that will be the next book that comes out.
Fantastic.
Right.
What's your goal for that? What's success with that project look like for you?
I feel like we're in a sales call right now. Here's my goal for that. First of all, I want business bedside manner to be in the ether. I think we all could use a hefty dose of it. Whether like a lot of people, if you think you've got a good business bedside manner, it's probably time to redefine it. And if you don't have one at all, it's time to establish one. So I think I want the thought process to be out in the ether, just in the business world. Like, I just believe in better business humans. And I think this is a concept that will create some better business humans or evolve people into being better business humans. That's my first thing. And the second thing is, in a perfect world, I would love for somebody one day on their resume to say they're BBM certified. Like an HR
Oh,
director is going to see
yeah.
that and be like, oh, they're BBM certified. I'm going to hire them. Like how we all used to value Six Sigma way back when Jack Welch was toting that for GM, right? Like I would love for it to be a certification that holds some sort of value down the road that gets people promoted or that gets people a new job. But most importantly, just like I just think we could all do better in the world if we stop and think what is my business bedside manner? Just helping people to stop and think about it.
Nice.
Fun. Good answers. Good
Yeah, yeah,
answers.
you.
she's
Thank
yeah,
you.
she's ready.
She
Ready.
is ready. I snuck
Yeah,
2 questions in there too, just
You're
okay.
the guest. You can do whatever you want. This is your show.
All right, so for Amani, and actually, I got to tell you, so the first book, when your first book launched, it was in the middle of COVID, and it was so
Yeah,
sad because
yeah.
you had this, and you did a great job of this virtual launch. To this day, it's the video I direct people to on the channel when they're asking for questions on virtual launching.
Thank
Aw.
So
you. Yeah,
he
yeah.
is the master of virtual launches, but still, a virtual launch is not what it's not what it's all cracked up to be. Like it is not the best of the world. So I am so freaking excited that you've had the launch that you've had. Not that I wouldn't be excited for our authors, but it was last week in our meeting, it was my win. I was just like, I am
Oh,
so freaking
yeah.
happy and proud of this launch and how hard you worked for it and how much energy you
Aw.
put into the book. So that's number one.
Thank
Um,
you. Yes.
but for you, so what's next? Like what's the next goal or milestone? Because we're gonna celebrate it for a minute, yes, but
Yeah.
we're on to the next thing because that's how we
He's
roll.
he's like, "Lady, let me take a nap. Tired."
No, no, no.
That's,
He's got an answer to this question. I promise.
yeah.
He's already cooking something else.
Yeah.
So what is that
Yeah.
something?
So I would say what's next is like I want to get the book in as many of the people who are in the book's hands, as many people that are featured in the book, their
Oh,
hands, just
cool.
so they can do that. That's one. I think make it into a documentary because it's got the content is all there. It's all there. It's just getting interviews and perspectives. I think that's number two. Those are the two main things. And then if I could get this book to be like a textbook for a class in universities, like that would be like number three. That would be number three. And then I have some fun ones like, Good Morning America. There's a couple podcasts I'd love to be on. But really, number
Yeah.
one would be just to get people who are featured in the book their hands to get their thoughts and maybe interview them to then lead to the documentary. That would be my goal.
Wait, can I give a third goal I think you have that you forgot to say?
Okay.
Getting Babyface on the podcast.
Well, yes, that's what I mean. Like, yes,
Yeah, we got
yes, yes, yes.
That's Amani's. We have like a
Yes,
dream list of our
that's a
dream
dream list.
guests, and
Yeah,
Babyface is like highlighted in our
yeah, yeah,
in our
yeah, for
conversation.
sure. So that's kind of what's next. The third book, sure, but I'm a little tired now, so I'm gonna ride this out for because this is a big book actually. It's much bigger than I anticipated, and just gonna ride this out for as long as because it took like 4.5 years, almost immediately after the first one came out, April 14th, 2020. I started grad school June of 2020. And this was my research topic, so it's been like 4.5 years. Yeah. Which actually leads me to my thank you for that. My question for you is what's next for book launchers?
Yeah, so we're launching software. So we've got some book marketing software that we are going to be launching here in June, and we're still going to do books, but like I mentioned, the market has changed a lot, and so where the demand is the strongest is in all things marketing, and I
Yeah.
love to help. I love to help everyone, which is a terrible business model. and
Right.
and so I think that there's an element that in order to serve people at the best level and, help get them on stages and media and do all the things for marketing, that's one client. But then there's a whole bunch of other people that need book marketing support that don't have the resources to invest in getting the support to do that. And that's where I think our book marketing and our communities really come in. And that's really what we're focused on developing while fine tuning, what we're doing as far as especially speaking engagements. We're starting to develop some really great
Yeah.
partnerships to help clients get on more and more stages because again, that's the best way to sell books in a really quick and efficient manner and have more and more doors open. So that's where I'm focused at the moment is kind of this whole new world of software, and then just fine tuning and even really focusing in on that level of service for our clients.
Love it. Before I turn it over to Mandy for her final question, I have my final question. And I've asked you this before, but I'm curious to hear if it's changed. Because if we would go back, talk to Julie right as she's coming out of university and give her advice based on everything you've learned up until today, March 3rd, 2025, what advice would you give your younger self?
Besides buy more real estate?
Yeah, yeah, yes. I think you said that before. That's what you said before. Yes,
Is it?
yes.
There you go. I didn't remember, but yes, that would be my thing, is to buy and hold as much of the real estate as you can. But I mean, I don't think I would say too much, because part of the journey has been making the mistakes. So I don't want to avoid the mistakes. I think, yeah, I think if anything, it would just be to really take action and lean in a little faster and a little bit more, where my gut was saying do it, and I eventually did it, but sometimes I didn't do it as fast as I think I could have, should have, would have, if I believed in myself a little bit more. So that would be the
Mm.
only thing, because I wouldn't want to give her any spoilers, right? Because part of the journey is making the mistakes and, taking the left turns when you maybe should have gone right. But if you hadn't have gone left, this wouldn't have happened, right? And it all comes together in a beautiful way in the end. And I don't think we're meant to know how that's supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Mandy, over to you.
I love how that sounds. Like, I wouldn't wanna give her any spoilers. Like, it instantly just puts, like, little Julie in my head of, like, let her learn for herself, like, the beauty in just discovering it yourself. That's a really, lovely way to kinda think about that. Thank you for that. That's cool. Okay, I have 2 final questions, actually. See, Amani, say I actually announced the numbers of questions, and I
Thank
hold my
you. I'm
finger up.
learning.
Be
I'm
2.
learning. Yes,
I have
yes.
2 final
I'm learning.
questions. Um, okay, so you've written 4 books, right, Julie?
Mhm.
So, I would just wanna go book by book. I was gonna say the name of the book and, like, the thing that sticks out at you about the book. Now, it could be about, like, writing the book or the actual book itself or, like, a crazy book launch story, but, like, just quick flash fire first thing that comes to mind when I say the book title, okay? So,
Okay.
more than cash flow, the real risks and rewards of real estate investing.
Rejected by Wiley, number one on Amazon overall in print
Ye
books.
Yes. Ooh, that's good. Love that. Okay. Next book, The New Brand You, Your New Image. I can't see this. Your new
Makes the sale
y
for you.
makes the sale for you. Yes.
Yep. The worst titled book, which gave me all the lessons I can share with my clients on how not to
Mm,
title a book.
I
mm.
agree. That was a hard one for me to say. Okay, got it. Okay.
Mhm.
Self-promote and succeed.
The foundation of what I think should be every nonfiction author's approach to writing a book.
Mm. Well
Beautiful.
said.
Self-publish and succeed.
Self promote and succeed.
Oh, hold on. Self Wait, self-promote
No,
and succeed, self-publish. Don't you have one that
We
called
just did,
self-publish?
yeah.
Oh, we
Oh, did
did.
I do it
Okay.
backwards? Did you
Yeah,
say it
but that's
backward, or
okay.
did you?
I
Okay,
don't know.
I
I don't know.
answered wrong. Anyway,
Okay.
self-publish and succeed is the foundation for every author, writing a book.
Yeah.
Self-promote and succeed is really the book marketing course that every nonfiction author needs.
Okay, that's good. So if you're listening and you're at the kid drop off right now, self promote and succeed. I will even say, even if you don't want to write a book, I feel like that's a book as a human being in business. You need a roadmap on how to be a better self promoter. I think that's great. Okay. How can we lift you up? You've given us an hour of your time. You've helped Amani become a best-selling
yeah,
author.
yes.
How can we lift you up? How can we promote whatever it is you've got out there? And how can we support you?
My favorite thing is so little. Come over to the YouTube channel and comment on the latest video. Just say
Yeah.
hello. Because you guys know, creating content, when people actually give you comments back, other than the person today that said, you shouldn't try to be funny, you're not funny. I was like,
Ah,
thanks. But then
screw that
Leave the
person.
if you
trolls
meet
alone.
me,
We'll leave the,
I'm
yes.
like, if you meet me, I'm sorry, you're not going to like me because this is me. I'm not actually trying. But anyways, so other than people like that, I love the comments. So just come over and say hi on the YouTube channel. That's the best. So booklaunchers.tv.
Awesome.
Got
So
it.
head to the
Yeah.
YouTube channel, and while you're at it, go see Adventures in Business YouTube channel. Just spend a little time on the YouTube, everybody,
Yeah.
visiting Julie, visiting us. But booklaunchers.tv. Got it. Great.
So just thank you for spending time with us. Quick story is that Julia sent me a text on Wednesday. It was like USA's bestseller. I was so happy. I said thank you. I'm like, I know lists aren't the end result, but this feels good. And Julie she says, celebrate every win. And I just appreciate that
Aw.
word because it was a great reminder. And just thank you to you and your team for helping this book come to life in a way I didn't even imagine. And I'm just so excited to see what we can do next. And just thanks for sharing a lot of information today. And we just really appreciate you.
Oh, thanks for having me, and great to meet you, Mandy.
Thank you for tuning in to Adventures in Business. Don't forget to rate and review our podcast on the platform that you're currently listening it on. And don't forget to share it with your friends and anybody that might be as much of the business nerds as Amani and I are. See you next time for another captivating interview.